to Retroverse 83 Podcast.
Well, hello, and how's everybody doing this fine afternoon? Retroverse in the house. I hope everybody had a very great Sunday, and this is actually being filmed on Sunday. So y'all all know that I have a Retroverse 83 podcast, and today we are going to be talking about Jean-Claude Van Damme, the action hero from the 90s, the muscles from the Brussels. A lot of movies he did were martial art films, action films, kind of like Arnold Schwarzenegger, Sylvester Stallone, and Wesley Snipes. The guys that were really big back in the day, the 80s and 90s, Chuck Norris. But there was one action superstar that really caught my eye of attention was none other than Jean-Claude Van Damme. And he was, every time we would go to the store or like the Blockbuster Video or whatever, well, I always try to rent me a Van Damme movie, and it just brings back a lot of memories from me growing up. So I just wanted to share just a little bit, just a little while today, just talking about Jean-Claude, his movies and, where he's from. I do have the app, the IMBDM app, I think that's how you say it, right, where it talks about a lot of good things about different actors and their movies that they were in, the background, their stories. But this is today's episode on Retroverse 83 Podcast. So let's just sit back and rewind time a little bit, and just pretend that it's a Friday night, right? And your parents are going to take you to go rent a movie, or you're going to go rent a movie back in the 90s, and let's take a trip down memory lane, and let's remember the Blockbuster Video, where we're gonna step inside and go inside Blockbuster and rent us out a movie. But the topic is Jean-Claude Van Damme. So let's just rewind time a little bit and push aside, all that's going on in the world right now. There's a lot of things going on in the world, a lot of depression, a lot of just distraction, a lot of politics right now, and I'm not just a politic person. It is what it is and how things are going to end up. But I think sometimes we just need to unwind, and we need to just remember the retroness and just the memories of the 90s and the 80s, and just push aside all the depression, all the things that are going on in the world right now, and just sit back and enjoy the memories. So let's get it started, guys. Enjoy.
You have made me a happy man.
Next, I'll make you a dead one.
Let's get this party started.
Alright, guys, let's get this going on the show and on the road on the Retroverse 83 podcast. So y'all do know that I changed my rooms up around, so the game room is in there where I usually did all my filming, but I had another room which was my son's room, but we went ahead and just took out the bed in here because weren't really using it a lot. So I made it into kind of like a retro type room, Godzilla stuff, VHS's, movies, so you probably can see some stuff in the background. I don't know if you can see it with this chair, but this is like where I have my Nintendo system, my old CRT TV in there. So all my Van Damme movies are right over here. So but yeah, I wanted to talk a little bit about Jean-Claude. I pretty much just grew up watching his movies, renting his movies. My dad used to rent me the Van Damme movies, Lionheart, Double Impact. When we used to live, I believe, in Burleson, Texas. We lived in a little house, or a little apartment complex. And there was a little moms and pops video rental store back there by Walmart, and that's where we rented a lot of our movies. And I still remember when they went out of business, which is kind of sad, but that's when Blockbuster was coming in, so Blockbuster took over. So that's my inspiration, Blockbuster. But I just pretty much just grew up watching his movies and just loved the way his martial arts films were, the action packed, and that's what it was about back then. That whole action packed movies. So I some of this stuff that I'm reading, I never even knew. It says Van Damme was born Jean-Claude Camille Francis van Vanberg. I knew his name, Varenberg. I knew his last name was that. Born in Belgium, the muscles from the Brussels. He started martial arts at the age of 11 years old. Wow, at the age of 11, his father induced him to martial arts when he saw his son was when he was physically weak. At the age of 12, Van Damme began his martial arts training at Centro National de Karate, National Center of Karate, under the guidance of Master Claude Gauthier in Excelius. I hope I'm saying this right. Belgium. Van Damme trained for 4 years and earned a spot on the Belgium karate team. He won the European Professional Karate Association's middleweight championship as a teenager. Wow. And also beat the second best karate fighter in the world. His goal was to be number one, but got sidetracked when he left his hometown in Brussels in 1976. At the age of 16, Jean-Claude started his martial arts fight career. So what we see in the movies, apparently, it's, we all know that it's Hollywood and it's acting, but there's always a background that we don't really know about, and apparently he was a professional martial artist, and that's really cool because not only is he acting and trying to entertain the world with his movies, but yet knows the talent and the structure of martial arts, karate talent. But I knew that he took ballet and was very flexible because he always did the splits in his movies, and when he came around he started doing these different kind of moves, the split kicks and doing the splits, and like he performed it in Kickboxer, Bloodsport, and Cyborg, and other movies, of course. But those are the 3 movies that really come to mind when he did these splits all the time. And he's really known for that because I have a picture of myself. I'm going to try to find it and put it on this video, but of me doing the splits. That's was a big inspiration because I was like, wow, man, this guy is very flexible and he's like really good at karate. But I remember he did that in Bloodsport when they were getting ready to go to the Kumite, and his friend Jackson goes in there and says, hey man, it's time to get ready, and he's doing the splits on 2 chairs, and then I believe he did it in Kickboxer as well, and Cyborg when he was in the sewers and the little pirate guys were Fender's pirate guys were chasing him in the sewers, and he was doing the splits on the top, and the guy walks underneath him and he stabs him in the face with a knife. Pretty neat. So it says over the next 6 years he competed in both full contact and semi-contact matches, so he actually was a full contact karate man, so like Bloodsport. He debuted under his birth name of Jean-Claude Van Varenberg. In his first match, Jean-Claude was staggered by roundhouse kicks and thrown by fellow countrymen. Wow, this is pretty neat. Let's just skip down a little bit. He retired from martial arts in 1992. Wow. Following a knockout apparently he got knocked out. Jean-Claude posted an 18-1. Wow, that's pretty nice. That's cool. Well, that was pretty neat to know that kind of stuff about Jean-Claude. I didn't know that he really competed in things. But let's go ahead and go to the movies. The movies that stand out, more important to me, is of course my all-time favorite is Lionheart, and we know his name was Leon in the movie. So let's go back to the beginning and let's talk about Bloodsport just for a minute. Bloodsport. And also his other movies he made. Let's not forget when he first started doing this. A movie called Breaking, Missing in Action. He was a soldier in it. He was uncredited in that one with Chuck Norris. Monaco Forever. He played a gay karate man. No Retreat, No Surrender. Now that's the one that I really remember. That was pretty neat. Ivan Krasinski, he was a Russian martial artist, and Jason Stillwell and his father his dad owned a karate like dojo, and then taught karate in Seattle. I'm not sure where it was at first where they were at, but apparently his dad the guys go in there and they want his dad to join them, and he turns them down for this offer for some to join their gang of karate people or whatever. But apparently he fights their champion, and he beats them in the dojo at the beginning of the movie. And Van Damme comes in, does his little, his signature karate moves, and I think he breaks his leg or something. So apparently they end up moving, and they move to Seattle, and then Jason Stillwell gets trained by none other than Bruce Lee, because he gets beat up by all these these punk kids, gets beat up. So he prays and calls upon Bruce Lee and goes to his grave or whatever. And Bruce Lee shows up and trains him. And then apparently he's in this, the three guys that beat him up in the movie, Jason Stillwell, they go to this tournament and they're fighting, and they apparently Van Damme takes on all of them and beats them all. And of course Jason Stillwell goes in there and starts beating him up. But that's one of his first movies that I remember. And then there's Bloodsport. But I don't know if y'all knew this, but Van Damme was actually supposed to play the Predator when they were filming the Predator movie with Schwarzenegger. But apparently Bloodsport came up, and he left the project to go to film Bloodsport in 1988. So Bloodsport follows Frank Dukes as an American martial artist, which is Frank Dukes is a real martial art person, and this is kind of inspired by him. Frank Dukes has spent most of his life being trained by Tanaka to participate in the Kumite, the ultimate martial arts tournament, where participations are seriously injured, even killed. Frank decides to go despite being told by his superior in the army. So he was in the army and goes off to this kumite to compete. So when he goes off to the kumite, he goes to his Sadoshi, his master, his apprentice, or his master, the guy that trained him, and goes off to the kumite to fight in this underground blood sport tournament. And I remember, man, because it's like, dude, man, this is like real stuff in Hong Kong, the underground fighting, martial arts, karate, people from all over the world. So it kind of has a similarity to The Quest. That was a very good movie, directed by Jean-Claude. And that one, it's kind of similar to that, but this takes place in Hong Kong, and he just friends up with this guy named Ray Jackson, and the guy from Revenge of the Nerds. The guy goes, nerds. That guy, he's a dude that friends him, and of course they go and they fight in this kumite, and when he leaves the army or whatever, runs away from it, these two guys are chasing him, trying to get him to come back to the army, but he says no, because I want to fight in the kumite and prove to the world that I am who I am, the first American guy to go in there and compete in this full contact kumite called Bloodsport. And Bolo Young is apparently the champ. We all know Bolo Young. He played in Enter the Dragon with Bruce Lee, and he also played in another movie with Brandon Lee, Bruce Lee's son. So Bloodsport's awesome movie. If you haven't seen it, y'all go check it out, man. It's really, really good. And Bolo Young is pretty awesome in it, and that's probably one of the first Van Damme movies that I've seen, and it's based on Frank Dukes, and I heard that he was a champion in the movie or in real life, which is pretty cool. But the movie it's written by Sheldon Littich, and so if you haven't checked that one out, you need to go check out Bloodsport. And Black Eagle. Black Eagle is really a really cool movie, and that movie was his name was Andrea in that movie, and that movie was also made in the same year Bloodsport was made, and that was kind of like a James Bond type, CIA type movie. I remember seeing this movie one Saturday when we lived in Burleson at our apartments, and it was on TV, and I didn't really catch the whole movie, the beginning of the movie, but I do remember seeing the end of it when him and the Chinese guy were fighting. I don't know his name. Let me see his name real quick. Let's just see. I have this on my iPad, so it's a lot different than my phone. Let's see. It usually just tells you shows you who acts in it, but I can't think of his name or whatever. So all cast and crew. Let's see, cast. Here we go. Oh yeah, okay. So apparently his name was Ken. In the movie his name was Ken. So it was Sho Konsigu. So yeah. Well, as I was saying, I remember the movie was on TV, and we were getting ready to go to the park, or I think the park down the street from the school that I used to go to. And the scene that I caught was him and this guy fighting, and they were fighting to the death at the end of the movie, trying to get everything squared away between their differences, and trying to see who the superior person was, martial arts, Van Damme, or this other person. And he ends up in the water. They both be swimming away, and this boat, the propeller, catches Van Damme's leg or whatever, and he gets chopped up to pieces in the movie. So that's what I remember about the movie. So, but yeah, that was pretty crazy. But we also remember Cyborg. That movie was super good. Cyborg in the future, more like kind of like a Mad Max type movie. Cyborg was. His name was Gibson, and we know that there was a plague going on in the movie, perhaps, and the Cyborg apparently knew a cure, I guess, for it. Let's see what it says. Gibson Rickenbacker is a hired fighter living in a plague-ravaged apocalyptic America, where a plague has infested most of the United States and the rest of the world. In New York City, Gibson encounters a woman named Pearl, so she's the Cyborg. Pearl Prophet. Pearl events to a Gibson that she is a cyborg who is carrying vital information for a group of scientists in Atlanta who are working on a cure to the plague, and Pearl hires Gibson to escort her back to Atlanta. So that's what she does. They're going to. Apparently there's a cure that she has in her mind, since she's a cyborg. So she has to hire this hitman or fighter per se as Van Damme. So she hires Van Damme. But Pearl's kidnapped by pirates and murders gang led by Fender. So actually Fender is actually in the movie Kickboxer 2. If you haven't seen that movie, that's a sequel to Kickboxer. It's about we'll get into that in a minute. So he wants to cure it for themselves, as they decide to take the Pearl to Atlanta themselves. Gibson, joined by a young woman named Natty Simmons, going in pursuit of Fender and his gang, as Gibson sets out to rescue Pearl, stop Fender and his gangs from reaching Atlanta, and defeat Fender, who slaughtered a Gibson's family. So Fender apparently killed Van Damme's family in the movie, and it's just like a beat 'em up, like revenge type movie. You know how the 80s movies were. So I do remember this movie. It's so cool, man. Like the karate scenes, the fighting scenes were like fantastic. And I remember the shirt that Van Damme wore. It's so funny. It was a beige, like vanilla cream shirt, and it was kind of cut like high. And I remember when I was a kid, I had one, and that's how I cut it. And I used to remember put the boots on and the jeans, and I would go outside and just. We all did this when we were kids. We go outside and just make believe that there were people in front of us, and we were like fighting them, doing like the sound effects and everything. Well, Van Damme, his boot, if he would like, it had some type of like, it would go like this, and there was like a knife or a blade in it or whatever, and that was his, like when he would kick, it would just like slice him up in the face or whatever. But the finale fight with this movie, Van Damme versus Fender, was pretty amazing. It was just like, they used to make a lot of movies like that where it was the hero, of course, and then you got the bad guy, and then the hero would have to go through all this trouble through the movie and to get to the end to fight the bad guy. So there was always the boss, the leader, the main guy that he had to fight, and this is what that kind of movie was. So if you haven't seen Cyborg, man, Cyborg's awesome. The music is fantastic. I actually used to have the soundtrack to it, but I do know that before they casted the guy, I can't think of his name right now, the guy to do the music, composer, Kevin Basin, before they casted him, there on the soundtrack there's an unreleased track by somebody else that was going to do the music to this movie. So, but I'm kind of glad that they stuck with this guy because this is the music is what makes the movie. It's that kind of like that horror type kind of feel, science fiction type kind of. But yeah, Cyborg's really, really good movie. So check it out. The gun that he had in the movie was pretty nice. So we're going to talk about Kickboxer. Kickboxer was released in 1989. His name was Kurt Sloan, and I do remember a lot of this movie. Like I said, again, it's a tournament, not tournament, but at the end they fight in this tournament kind of ring or whatever. Well, Kurt Sloan has his brother, and his brother was champ. His name was Eric Sloan. So Kurt Sloan and Eric Sloan. So it says Kurt Sloan is the corner man for his brother. His brother Eric Sloan is a U.S. kickboxing champion. When Kurt witnesses his brother becoming paralyzed in the ring by Thailand champion Tong Po, Kurt vows revenge with the help of Zian, a kickboxing trainer who lives in the remote area of Thailand. Kurt trains for the fight of his life. So, his brother was Eric Sloan was a U.S. karate champion. So he goes and fights Tong Po, which I can't really pronounce his name, but he's also in Lionheart as well. So let's see, Michael Quissy, Tong Po. Yeah, well, he also plays him in Kickboxer 2 as well, and he's in Lionheart. So he's one of the Legionnaire guys that go after Van Damme after Van Damme leaves in Lionheart, the movie. Well, in this movie, apparently Eric Sloan fights Tong Po, and he's a champ. So he fights Tong Po. Tong Po beats him up, of course, hits him in the back with his elbow or whatnot, and paralyzes him, and he can't move or anything from the waist down. So Van Damme, of course, wants revenge. Van Damme does have a lot of ability to fight in karate, of course, but he's really no match for Tong Po in this movie because Tong Po is just so superior. He's so powerful, and he's the kickboxing champion of Thailand. So everybody, but there's a lot going on in it because he's like part of a gang or whatever. And then Van Damme goes to Thailand to be trained by Zian, and Zian teaches him the art of kickboxing. And this and that happens, and they end up going to the ring, and they fight in the old style where they put the gloves, they wrap it up with like rope or whatever, they put glue on it, put broken glass on it, and then that's how they fight. Bah, 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 bah. That's how they fight. So very good movie, very good martial arts. Van Damme was so cool in the 90s, and it's just like, they really need to make more movies like this, more action movies like The Expendables. I mean, in my opinion, I think the first, second are the best. 3, I thought 3 was pretty good. I thought Mel Gibson did a pretty good villain, bad guy. I haven't seen the 4th one yet, so I heard it's really bombs. I heard it's not a very good movie, but they really need to start bringing back movies like this, like where there's the hero, and then there's like a main man, like a main bad guy that they go after, and then at the end, that's where they have the big duke out, and they fight, and then they fight, and they fight to the battle of the death and everything. So that's how movies are now. It's just like they don't have very good cinematography now. It's not. They don't have. I mean, some movies are good. Godzilla's good. I like Godzilla, but like, I don't know, man. It's just like, I think the world's missing out on a lot of good movies, 90s movies like Van Damme. Bring him back. Bring Van Damme back. So before we close this, I'm gonna have to do a part 2 to this because there's just so much to talk about these movies, and I'm gonna talk about Lionheart. This is my all-time favorite movie. Lionheart. His name is Leon. Lionheart, aka AWOL, absent without leaving. There's a lot of different names. The plot of the movie was that Van Damme was in the Legionnaire, and apparently his brother got mixed up with the wrong crowd in New York, I believe that's where they're at, and they kill him. So he gets a letter from his brother's widowed wife now, and sends it to Leon. Leon, of course, he's gonna go, and says that he's never gonna turn his back on his family. So he makes a way to escape the Legionnaire, and then of course, he goes through all kinds of things to get out of the Legionnaire, and then he escapes, and then they're after him. So he gets to New York City and meets up with his brother's wife, and they're about to get evicted, and they don't have any money. So Van Damme kind of just like avenges his brother's death and helps out his brother's wife, and he goes into this underground fighting tournament, and he ends up being teams up, or Cynthia is a girl that manages the whole underground fighting system. So now it also has Brian Thompson, I think that's his name. He's Shao Kahn in the Mortal Kombat Annihilation, and he's also in I just saw a movie the other day with him in it. I can't remember what it was. The Three Amigos. He's in the Three Amigos as well. He's also in Cobra. He's the bad guy in Cobra. But Cynthia kind of manages him, and this other guy Joshua, and he used to be a ex-fighter as well. Now he's kind of like all kind of crippled up a little bit, but he's also managing the underground fighting circuit. But Cynthia is she's like the warlord of it all. So he ends up going into this underground fighting thing, raises money, and to support his brother's wife and his daughter. Throughout the movie he's doing this, but Cynthia's a very corrupt businesswoman, and it's just like she's using him and this and that. But he ends up fighting this one dude, I think the Scotland, and I think he ends up breaking his ribs or something like that, and then this one guy Attila, he's like the main dude, like the main bad guy. He's like killed people in this underground, and like they place bets on him, and the movie is all about money and betting and like just underground fighting, karate. But Van Damme ends up getting involved with this fight, Attila, and Attila is played by the guy that's in The Quest, which is the leader in The Quest, which is pretty cool. But Tong Po is also in this movie. He's one of the guys that are after him from the Legionnaire. So, but that's his brother. The Attila is Tong Po's brother in real life. I didn't know if y'all knew that. But of course, Van Damme fights the guy in the last of the movie, and of course, Van Damme wins, and they're gonna take him back to the Legionnaire. The two guys are gonna take him back to the Legionnaire, and they let him go. They let him go free. So he goes back and lives with Joshua and I guess the family, and it has a really, really good story. So Lionheart I do remember that movie, and I used to have the poster hanging up at my wall. The soundtrack, I had the soundtrack. I ordered it on eBay. I don't have it anymore, but the soundtrack runs around for it's roughly almost $150-$200. But the movie, the music to the movie is awesome. The music composer is John Scott. He also did, I think he did King Kong Lives, and I'm not really for sure what else he did, but I do remember John Scott and the music. So it's awesome. Da, 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 da. It's awesome. So if you haven't ever seen Lionheart, check it out. It's a really good 90s action flick. So yeah, man, this is awesome to do, to just sit back and just remember the 90s and the 80s and 90s. And before I started this, I was going to tell you that we just need to just like sit back and just just remember down memory lane, and just pretend that we're gonna, when I do these podcasts, just pretend that we're gonna be going back to Blockbuster and renting a movie. It doesn't necessarily have to be Jean-Claude Van Damme. It can be anything, any topic that you like. It's the memory that brings back a lot of nostalgia for me. And yeah, it's Jean-Claude. I really wish he had a lot more movies nowadays like they were in the 90s. And if you really think about it, there's not a lot of people or a lot of actors that really live up to that generation of the 80s and 90s. They don't have that genre like they used to anymore. It's like we have the Fast and Furious movies, which are decent movies to me. We have like Jurassic Park movies, Jurassic Worlds, and but there's never going to be like that one. I mean, there's always an action star for each generation. So the 80s and 90s, we all know there was Stallone and Schwarzenegger, Chuck Norris, Jean-Claude Van Damme, Brandon Lee was pretty good, Dolph Lundgren. But, growing up now, it's like it's a whole new generation that's coming around, and it's like, wow, like we've really missed out on a lot because they don't make movies like that anymore. Jason Statham was pretty good at it when he started coming around. Jet Li made the Kiss of the Dragon movies. He made all these tournament fighting movies. Jason Statham reminded me a lot of Jean-Claude Van Damme when he started coming in, doing his movies. Very, very good actor. But I wish that we had that back. The whole karate action pack Expendables type movies. There's the hero, then there's the villain. There's the big setup fight at the very end, and then boom, there it goes. But this is pretty nice, and I really enjoy doing this. So, I've always wanted to do this podcast, and it's nice to sit here and talk about things, and the nostalgia and the memories of what we grew up with, or what I grew up with. And Van Damme has a lot of memories and sentimental to me in my heart growing up with it. And Bloodsport kickboxer, I have pictures of me and my older brother pretending that we're in tournaments fighting because we're Van Damme. And there's a scene in Lionheart where he's fighting this guy in the swimming pool, and he has these tights, these tight uniforms that they wore. And I told my mom that I wanted tights like that, and of course I got some tights that I used to wear. But yeah, it's pretty amazing, guys. So I hope that you enjoyed this episode of Retroverse 83 podcast. But apparently there's going to be a part 2, and we're going to do another episode of Jean-Claude Van Damme. But I hope that you enjoyed, some information about these movies if you haven't ever seen them, or me talking about them. Hope it makes you want to go rent it, or even just stream it. Stream now. We can't get out and go rent any movies anymore, but I could probably open up my own video rental store here. But yeah, man, I hope that you enjoy it. So let's stay retro, guys, and there's going to be another episode on my podcast, so stay tuned. And I hope that you enjoyed Jean-Claude Van Damme episode, Van Dammage part 1, and there's going to be a part 2, so we're going to do it. So I'm very tired right now. Of course, they all know that I work a full-time job. Church is a given, so I'm not complaining about that. So I love to do and work for the kingdom of God, doing things. We had music, we had church this morning. We had a chili cook-off thing today. We ate there, and then we have a music meeting for the musicians and everything. And then, of course, me doing YouTube videos. I have to do this video that I'm going to premiere tomorrow. Then I'm going to have to do Retro Sundays video today to premiere today. So it's a lot of work. So I really appreciate you guys tuning in and just listening to what we have to say about Retroverse 83. So Van Dammage 2 is going to be coming out pretty soon in a later episode of podcast. So I want everybody to have a very good day, and thank you for tuning in today, guys. So remember, stay retro and let's talk retro. So everybody stay blessed, guys.